Jennifer Grancio, has the novelty of ETFs worn off? Have they finally arrived?
I think ETFs have finally arrived, and we see that in the growth in the market. So if you look at the flows we've seen so far this year in total long-dated fund assets, 35% of the new money is coming into ETFs. So I think that's a sign that they've finally arrived.
That said, what is least understood or misinterpreted about ETFs right now?
With exchange-traded funds, we went out and we did some research at iShares recently. We talked to advisors, we talked to investors. And the thing that I think is least understood is, what do ETFs add to a portfolio? And there's a big population out there that still doesn't fully understand the benefits of basically lowering your cost, your tax, your risk in the portfolio. So we have a lot of work to do still as an ETF industry to continue to educate advisors and investors.
Well, speaking of adding, we've seen a lot of ETFs added to the pot, a lot of commodity ETFs. Have consumers gone overboard on buying commodity ETFs, and have issuers gone overboard on issuing them?
I think that when you think about the exchange-traded fund market, for a lot of investors, there are a small number of products that are going to do the job in their portfolio. For more sophisticated investors that are managing big portfolios, we still see demand from those investors for these very fine slices of this commodity or that commodity. So I think that's part of what's fueling the trend.
And speaking of those fine slices, what indexes are still out there for you to take advantage of to put out new ETFs?
I think there will be a lot of ETF growth. Again, I think for investors at the core of their portfolio, they have all the products they need today. For tactical overlays and for more sophisticated investors, I think we'll continue to see slices of international fixed income, different ways to play yield, and from an equity perspective, much finer slices of emerging markets and frontier markets going forward.
Well, what do you see in the future? Lately, the big trend has been not just international ETFs like country funds, but slicing down within those countries and getting large cap, small cap, mid cap.
I think we'll continue to see that. I think that investors, when they look at the equity part of their portfolio, they realize they have a home country bias. So you see U.S. investors trying to get beyond the U.S. You see investors in developed markets trying to get beyond their own market and so on. And so people are looking at correlations and they're trying to find markets that outperform. So if you look at this year, in the developed markets, you've seen Japan do very well. We've seen that show up in ETFs. You've seen in the emerging markets, Brazil have better fundamentals than other countries. And so I think people will continue to dig in and look for finer slices in places where they can count on performance or outperformance.
And then finally, does iShares have any plans to get into the leveraged ETF arena? This is a very popular one with institutional traders, not so much with retail people.
We think that investors really need to understand what it is they're buying. And in the case of leveraged and inverse products, we frankly don't think most investors understand what they are buying with those products. So that's not something that we are looking to do. But we think that investors need to be very careful what they're buying and really understand the risks associated with those products.